It started as a thrill-seeking trip, just another abandoned place to explore. Luke, Evan, and I had spent years searching for forgotten relics, places left to decay, swallowed by time. The stories about the old WW2 bunker were vague, but the location was real. Deep in the forest, past the remnants of an old military outpost, it waited, silent, untouched. We arrived just before sunset, our backpacks filled with flashlights, cameras, and enough supplies to last the night. The entrance was barely visible beneath a layer of overgrown vines, the rusted steel door ajar, like someone had tried to seal it long ago but failed. Evan ran a hand along the chipped concrete. "You sure about this?" His voice held a nervous edge. Luke grinned. "It's just an old bunker. What's the worst that could happen?" That question hung in the air longer than it should have. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open. It groaned against its hinges, the sound echoing into the darkness beyond. A wave of cold, stale air rushed past us, carrying the scent of rust and something older. We stepped inside. Our flashlights flickered against the damp walls, revealing decaying maps, rusted metal cabinets, and old military crates left untouched for decades. The bunker stretched deeper than expected, corridors vanishing into the abyss, a labyrinth swallowed by shadows. Luke led the way, his camera rolling. "Look at this," he whispered, pointing at a faded emblem on the wall, a symbol of the war, its meaning long lost. Then Evan froze. "Did you hear that?" A distant sound. A metallic scrape deep within the bunker. We turned toward the darkness ahead. We were not alone. The sound, faint yet distinct, sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't the distant groan of shifting metal or the creak of an old structure settling. It was deliberate. A scrape, then silence. Evan's flashlight trembled slightly in his grip. "Tell me that was just an echo." Luke smirked, masking his nerves. "Probably some old pipe shifting. Relax." He turned his camera toward the corridor ahead, its lens capturing the creeping darkness that swallowed the walls. "Let's keep moving. We came here to explore, right?" We hesitated but pressed on. The deeper we ventured, the colder the air became, not the damp chill of underground spaces, but something unnatural. Like the air itself was watching us. Our lights danced over faded murals, propaganda posters still clinging to the walls, their edges curling with time. A table in the next room held rotting documents, yellowed and brittle. I brushed the dust away and squinted at the words. German. Reports of supply runs, missing soldiers, and one final entry. Ist nicht tot. Beobachtet. I swallowed hard. My German was rusty, but I understood enough. He is not dead. He watches. Evan leaned over my shoulder, his breath uneven. Dude, what the hell does that mean? Before I could answer, something clanked behind us. Hard. Metal on metal. We spun around, flashlights cutting through the blackness. The hallway we had just walked through was empty. Luke exhaled a nervous laugh. Old building, man. Stuff falls apart. But Evan wasn't listening. He stepped toward the corridor, his flashlight shaking slightly. No. I swear I saw something move. We stood there, silent, listening. The only sound was our own breathing. Then, faintly, from somewhere deeper in the bunker, a footstep. Not ours. We weren't alone. We froze. The sound of that single footstep echoed through the darkness, lingering longer than it should have. My grip on the flashlight tightened, my pulse hammering against my ribs. Evan whispered, "Tell me you guys heard that." Luke nodded slowly, his usual confidence flickering. "Yeah, I did." Silence stretched between us. The air felt heavier now, thick with something unseen, something waiting. My eyes flickered back to the German report on the table. He is not dead. He watches. A chill crawled up my spine. Luke raised his camera. Let's check it out. I grabbed his arm. Are you insane? What if? Before I could finish, another sound filled the corridor, a slow, deliberate drag. like something pulling itself along the concrete floor. Evan staggered back. No. Nope. I'm out. We are leaving. Now. He turned, hurrying back toward the bunker's entrance. Luke and I exchanged a look before following, our boots clattering against the old stone floor. We turned a corner. And stopped dead. The entrance door, the rusted, heavy steel slab we had pushed open just minutes ago, was shut. Not just shut. Sealed. Luke dropped his camera. What the hell? Evan was already at the door, shoving, pounding his fists against the metal. No, 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 this isn't happening. He grabbed the handle, jerking it violently. The metal barely budged. It was open. It was open. I turned, my flashlight trembling as I swept it across the corridor behind us. The darkness seemed thicker now, closer, and then, from deep within the bunker, a whisper, a voice that wasn't ours. German. Gehört jetzt uns. I felt the blood drain from my face. You belong to us now. Evan yanked at the door, his breathing ragged. This doesn't make sense. We didn't shut it. We didn't. Luke stepped forward, his hands shaking as he pressed against the cold steel. Maybe it's rusted shut. Maybe. Boom. The sound erupted from deep inside the bunker. A thunderous slam, like a door crashing shut somewhere in the abyss. The vibrations shuddered through the floor, dust raining from the cracked ceiling. I turned, flashlight scanning the darkness. Nothing. Just the endless corridors stretching into the unknown. Then came the footsteps. Slow. Measured. Not in a hurry. Coming closer. Luke's voice was barely a whisper. There's someone in here. Evan whimpered as he pressed himself against the door. No. No, there's not. There can't be. The footsteps stopped. For a long moment, the bunker fell into absolute silence. No more echoes, no more shifting dust. Just us, and whatever had been walking toward us. Then, the lights went out. Our flashlights flickered violently, beams dimming, struggling against the suffocating dark. The air grew colder, the damp smell now mixed with something rotten. Old. Decayed. Then I heard it. Breathing. Shallow. Right in front of us. Luke fumbled for his camera. We need to go. Now. Evan turned, blindly slamming his fists against the steel door. Let us out. Then, fingers. Cold, bony fingers brushed against my arm. I jerked back, heart pounding. My flashlight stuttered, barely illuminating the hallway. For a split second, just one horrible second, I saw it. A figure. Standing in the dark. Not moving. Not breathing. Just watching. And then, it lunged. I stumbled back, my breath catching in my throat as the figure lunged. My flashlight flickered wildly, the beam slicing through the darkness just in time to catch a face, pale, hollow, and wrong. Its eyes, they weren't eyes at all. Just deep, black pits, endless voids that seemed to swallow the light whole. Its mouth hung slightly open, jaw unhinged, revealing teeth that were far too long, far too sharp. And it was fast. I barely had time to move before it rushed forward, a blur of shadow and bone. I hit the wall hard, knocking the air from my lungs. The thing didn't make a sound as it moved, its twisted form unnervingly silent. Evan screamed. He scrambled back, his flashlight clattering to the floor. Luke wasn't moving, just staring, his camera still rolling, capturing the horror none of us could comprehend. Then, just as suddenly as it had lunged, it was gone. The hallway was empty again. But the air felt heavier, thick with something I couldn't name. Like it was still here, just unseen. Luke finally snapped out of it. Tell me you got that on camera. Evan was still gasping for breath. He shook his head. I don't care. I just want out. I grabbed my flashlight, heart slamming against my ribs. We need to move. Now. We turned away from the locked entrance, heading deeper into the bunker. It was the last thing I wanted to do, but there was no choice. If that thing had sealed the way we came in, there had to be another exit. The corridors felt even darker now, like the shadows themselves were closing in. The bunker wasn't just abandoned, it was alive, watching us, hunting us. Then, somewhere down the hall, a whisper. But this time, it was different. Not German. English. Turn back. Turn back. The words hung in the air, as if the very walls of the bunker had spoken. The voice was dry, rasping, and too close. My flashlight wavered as I swung it toward the source, expecting to see something standing in the dark. But there was nothing. Luke whispered, "Did you hear that?" Evan shook his head violently. No, I didn't. Because that didn't happen. We need to go. He turned, moving fast, but his boot caught on something. He tripped, slamming hard onto the concrete. His flashlight skidded ahead, rolling until it stopped, illuminating something on the floor. A pile of bones. Human. Some still wrapped in the remains of a rotting uniform. A rusted helmet lay beside the skull, the metal dented from some violent impact. Luke swore under his breath. This just got a whole lot worse. I crouched beside the remains, my fingers trembling as I reached toward the helmet. There were scratches along the metal surface, not from war, but from fingers. Desperate, clawing fingers. And then I saw the wall behind it. A message, scratched deep into the concrete. We opened it. We shouldn't have. My stomach dropped. Evan scrambled back to his feet, his face pale. I don't care what that means. I don't want to know. I just want to get out of here. I agreed. Every part of me was screaming to leave. But there was only one way to go, deeper. Luke swallowed hard. There's another room up ahead. Maybe a way out. I didn't want to go. But as I turned my flashlight down the hallway, I saw something that made my breath catch in my throat. At the far end of the corridor, just standing there, was the figure. Watching us. Waiting. And then, it moved. Straight toward us. The figure moved fast. Too fast. One moment it was standing at the end of the hallway. The next, it was charging toward us, its shadowy form stretching unnaturally in the dim light. Evan screamed. He spun and bolted down the corridor. Run! I didn't need to be told twice. I grabbed Luke's sleeve, yanking him back as we tore through the darkness, our flashlights bouncing wildly against the cracked concrete walls. The air grew thicker, colder, pressing in from all sides like the bunker itself was trying to hold us back. Somewhere behind us, I heard the sound of bare feet slapping against the floor. The thing was still coming. Luke gasped between ragged breaths. We can't outrun it. He was right. It was gaining. Fast. Up ahead, Evan skidded to a stop, his flashlight swinging frantically. It's a dead end. No. Not here. Not in the dark with that thing right behind us. But then I saw it. A door. Rusted, half open, barely visible in the shadows. There! I shouted, shoving Evan toward it. He didn't hesitate, throwing himself inside. Luke and I followed, slamming the door shut just as. Bang! Something slammed against the metal, rattling the hinges. Then again. Harder. We stumbled back, flashlights shaking as we aimed at the door. I could hear it, ragged breathing just beyond the rusted barrier. Low. Guttural. Hungry. Then, a scraping sound. Long, slow claws dragging across the metal. Evan was hyperventilating. We're dead. We're dead. Luke spun, his light sweeping across the room. It was small, barely big enough to fit the three of us. A storage area, maybe. But at the back. Another door. There. I rushed toward it, gripping the handle. It was old, rusted, but unlocked. The moment it cracked open, a gust of foul, stale air hit us, thick with the scent of decay. But there was no time to hesitate. Behind us, The scraping stopped. Then, the handle on the first door began to turn. I shoved the second door open, plunging into the darkness beyond. Luke and Evan were right behind me. As soon as we were through, I yanked it shut. Silence. No footsteps. No breathing. Then Luke whispered, Where the hell are we?" I turned my flashlight forward, and my stomach dropped. Because this wasn't just another hallway. It was a staircase, leading down. The staircase yawned open before us, a gaping void of blackness that seemed to swallow the light from our flashlights. The air down there was wrong, thick, stale, carrying a scent that was more than just decay. It smelled ancient, forgotten. Evan's voice was barely a whisper. "We're not seriously going down there, right?" But what choice did we have? Behind us, the thing that had been chasing us was still there, waiting. Luke swallowed hard. "We move. Now." With slow, cautious steps, we descended. Each step echoed, bouncing off unseen walls, the sound distorted, like we had entered somewhere deeper than just a bunker. The walls felt tighter, the ceiling lower. My flashlight flickered, and for a brief moment, I thought I saw something moving ahead. A shifting shadow, not ours. I froze. "Did you see that?" No one answered. And then, a new sound. A voice. Low. Murmuring. Coming from the darkness ahead. Evan grabbed my arm, his grip like ice. "I don't want to be here. Please, let's turn back." But we couldn't. The only way was forward. The deeper we went, the more the walls around us changed. The concrete was crumbling, giving way to something older. Stones, carved with symbols. Not German. Not military. Something else. Luke ran his fingers over them, his face pale. "This isn't part of the war. This is older." The murmuring grew louder, more distinct. Not just one voice, but many. Whispering. Chanting. Then, at the bottom of the stairs, a door. Massive, wooden, reinforced with rusted iron. Unlike anything else in the bunker. And carved into it, a symbol. Deep gouges forming a shape that made my stomach twist just looking at it. Evan took a step back. "I'm not touching that." Luke exhaled slowly, gripping the handle. "We came this far." He pushed. The door groaned, resisting for a moment, then burst open. The air hit us like a wave. And inside, illuminated by the flickering beams of our flashlights, were the bodies. Not from war. Not soldiers. Something else. And in the center of the room, something moved. Something turned to look at us. And it smiled.